Hello everybody. Welcome to another week of Game Wisdom Live. This is going to be for the week of September 28, 2017. As always, joining me is my co-host and streamer, Robert Leach.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey Rob, how are you doing this week?
I am good. You'll pardon me looking away. I'm just trying to set up the link for my stream there. And so people, damn it. Sorry, things just got screwy. I will keep doing that, but yeah, things are going pretty good. How are things on your end of the spectrum?
Things have been kind of up and down this week. First, in the down category, I've been dealing with a bit of one of my little sinus headaches or migraine today. I brought out the old children's pillowcase with an ice bag in it, so you know it's bad. It's starting to get a little bit better. I took some medicine about an hour ago, and it's starting to ease the pain.
Yeah.
I did two of my presentations this week, and sadly there wasn't much of a draw. I think the problem is that the libraries aren't doing a lot in terms of marketing things.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be up to me to I have one set for next Friday. So I think I'm going to try and do a little bit more on my end and see if I can kind of get things going on that front.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of at least a little bit of good news, we actually got on Patreon. Someone donated $40, which is like the most, like my highest tier on the Patreon right now, and that gets a exclusive patrons podcast. So hopefully the person will keep the donation up because they won't take the money until like the first week of October. But if that goes through, we'll have a special podcast that I'll be posting sometime in October once I get a hold of the guy. And as of right now, we are $10 away from the $100 goal for the Resident Evil 7 Let's Play. So there's still a few days left. So if anyone wants to get in on that before time runs out, please do so. And as I said last week, for anyone who donates $5 or more and gets VIP status, the last show of the month we'll try and do like a little Q&A if anyone has any questions. So again, patreon.com/GWBlazer. Just got dark where Rob was there for a second. And you can submit your questions if you donate at least to that tier. And again, you'll get VIP status to the Discord, the Saturday Night Grab Bag, and whatever else we can think of.
It sounds cool. I have to do more looking at your Patreon. I'm so unused to looking at Patreon pages. It's something I really need to learn more about.
El Gordo's saying in chat we need elevator music for the intermission. I'm just not sure how to do that when I'm talking on Skype. Like, is there a way to set up so that you guys will hear the music, but you won't hear Rob and I, talk behind your backs about how we hate everyone before the stream?
I know there is on the streaming software I use. It's but it's very different, I'm sure. So I don't know if I could tell you how to do it on yours on OBS.
Yeah, well, if anyone has any ideas, definitely let me know either in comments or chat. That's good, Alberto. I'm expecting a new Pennywise to come out from behind Rob's closet. I still remember when we did the live stream when you were stuck in the snow, and all of a sudden,
Oh my God.
I hear, "Josh, I gotta go, quick!" It's like, uh-oh, what happened to Rob?
I won't be running into that problem anymore. I'm in Los Angeles now, so much less likely to be stuck in snow here.
But like I said, like that would be like the perfect setup for a horror movie right then and there.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I'm so sorry that I'm looking away like this. This is so terrible.
Let's see. So what else has been happening? There's been a lot of discussions we've been having on our Discord channel. During the night I went for one of my first presentations, sorry, my mouth just got really dry all of a sudden, there was a whole talk, Rob and Josh having, not this Josh, but the other Josh on there regarding JRPG versus CRPG design. We had to talk about gacha and loot boxes, and it got very exciting. Of course, I wasn't there to jump in on it, sadly. But definitely some very interesting topics. Before we get to that, I guess some games that we've been playing. I've been really enjoying Fight. It's been kind of like the surprise hit. It's kind of like a more focused No Man's Sky. Did you have a chance to watch any footage of it, Rob?
No, I wasn't even aware of it. It's one of those games I'm just gonna have to write down and review later.
I've also been really enjoying Omega Strike, which is kind of like a Metal Slug meets Metroidvania kind of game. and it's came from, I think, another like one person or very small developer. I think they've been working for like 3-4 years now, and I'm really liking it. I'm almost done with the game on hard mode. We streamed some of it the other night. And of course, in terms of big games coming out this week, in I think 12 hours, the Cuphead will be out, at least over here. So tomorrow night's going to be very interesting, as well as the Asura expansion. I don't think we ever talked about Asura, but that is a roguelike. It's designed completely around Indian mythology that came out, I think, way back at the start of 2016, which feels like 20 years ago by my time.
Yeah.
I talked to the developer about it a few times, and the game sold well enough that they're doing an expansion that will be free to anyone who owns the game. So if something goes wrong with Cuphead, we'll be streaming that probably Friday night. But I'm really excited because Asura and Morph are like two of these like really like surprise hits for me this year.
That's cool. I have not, again, Asura is another one of those that I have not had a chance to look at yet. I'm going to bring up Steam on my local system here, just so I can start referencing things as we talk.
And let me see. Here I got another press key from a game. I'm just double checking to make sure that I can actually play it, and it's not under embargo. There's embargo. Okay, so streams are okay. So I got a key for the game Judge, and it's Judge spelled with a V in there. So, oh no, I'm sorry, Judge spelled with a Y. Again, not my place to ask that question. It's kind of like a Hotline Miami by way of Judge Dredd kind of thing.
Interesting.
So I played a little bit of it earlier, and since the game is available at least for under regular streaming, I think I will maybe try and stream that tonight, or at least maybe do some more with Omega Strike. We'll have to see after we're done here. But I think I'll wait a day or two before doing more of Fight, just because there's still, I have to edit like the last 2.5 hours streams down to like 2-3 videos. Let's see, other games that we've been playing. Of course, I'm still trying to find, the mythical, amazing mobile game. I did my video on gacha design a few days ago, and that kind of led into the discussion we were having about like gacha versus loot box on the Discord.
Yeah, certainly that's a boy. Yeah, the mobile games market we had mentioned before is just crazy with regards to the variety of payment systems and ways they make money. Just because the way that the mobile market started to make money has just snowballed into something just like, if you're a developer, you pretty much have to be free to play, and you pretty much have to figure out how to monetize after that.
Yeah. And I was asking Josh about this, and maybe you would have more of an understanding with your publishing background, Rob, but I was just wondering, when it comes to like mobile development, how early in the development process, if you would know this, do they start thinking about the monetization? Because I'm sure it has to be fairly early in the game's design, right?
Well, it's dependent on who you are. If you're Zynga, if you're whomever, why can't I think of this?
Supercell,
Supercell, especially. Like, if you're one of them and you're wanting to make a new game, you've got your monetization strategy all laid out, and your game has to match it. For someone who's developing a game from scratch, see, that's the problem I have, is that you should probably know which way you're going to monetize right when you start making your game. Like, if you're going to go on mobile, you got to know mobile, and you got to know the market. There were a lot of people who approached me with mobile games, and I would just say, no, we're not. We don't do mobile. The market's just too disgusting, and it is, because you can't go in as a paid game if you're an unknown developer. That's pretty much you're never going to make money. And if you go in as a free game, it better be decent enough and have a following enough for people to like want to download it, because if you don't get 0 downloads, then you're never going to be on the front page of the Apple Store. I mean, as it is, you're never going to be on the front page anyway. You just got to assume that. So getting the game in the hands of people is your biggest problem pretty much anywhere. But once you do get the game in the hands of players, how do you keep them there?
Yeah.
A lot of people go straight for like what do they go for? They go straight for ads. That's one thing. the big drawback to ads
Oh.
is that most of the time you're advertising games.
Yeah.
And if a game looks interesting, suddenly you've got one less player.
Yeah.
So you basically are handing someone your own player. And if you go through ways to make money in terms of they have to buy loot crates or they have to do in-app purchases like sorry, pretty much anything like any kind of in-app purchase that you can think of, you have to think, well, how does it impact the gameplay? Why would someone want this? Any of those kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm going to send you over a link. I probably should send this over to you just before we started, Rob. But this was a blog that went up this week on Gama Sutra about someone trying to figure out the best ways to monetize in-game skins, and they use League of Legends as part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
League of Legends and boy, we got a fun person on chat.
There we go.
Bot, I guess. So League of Legends, Riot Games, Dota, and all of them, man, the skins and stuff are crazy, and they've got basically free advertising with the esports, because you see one of the pros playing one of the skins, and you're like, how do I get that? That looks crazy. I want that. Like, I forget the name of the character. I don't see him anymore because they must have nerfed him or something. But it was a giant like tree who would walk around, and they made it into like this candy guy, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. But I know you'd have to go down and pay for it or somehow otherwise win it. But they're totally advertising it. It's like, a professional athlete with shoes. You want their cool shoes or their cool hat or whatever.
Yeah.
So they've got a whole, man, it's all there. It's crazy.
And Ogoro brought up that there's going to be a a Metroidvania game based off of the recent Mummy movie by Way Forward.
Interesting. Oh, I used to work for them.
Nice. Yeah,
That's
I really
crazy.
like Way Forward too.
They're very good.
If I remember right, I think Yacht Club Games formed from people who formerly worked at Way Forward. But I mean,
Shovel Knight, is that because they did Shovel Knight? Okay, yeah. I knew those guys. I knew them once back in the day. I am not like in contact with them by any stretch, but they're very cool people.
Hey Shadow, thanks for coming on as well. But like when it comes to that kind of monetization, this is what Josh and I were talking about. Like, we were bringing up Shadow of War or the Shadow of Mordor, the next game, and he said that in an interview they mentioned that the game was completely balanced without the microtransactions before they were put in. And he thought, well, that begs a question, then what's going to happen when you introduce that into the game and people start playing it?
Yeah, you really, really have to get your designers and say, hey, work with this, figure something out, and then take the time to do it. Because if you just inject something, it's impossible. Like, you're doing it after the fact, and you've got to, with your game design, you really have to do hand in hand with that kind of thing. Because certainly you have more freedom in game design when you pay up front. And then when you do in-app purchases, well, you've got a whole realm of balancing questions if those purchases affect the game. Like, how fast are people going to start going through these levels, which means how many levels do I have to have available? Because if someone can buy their way through levels, they can finish the game, and suddenly you lose a revenue stream. But if it's too hard to play without paying for it, well, then you're going to lose people who might eventually give you some money. So there's a lot to think about there. And really, like, I think to your question earlier, you really do have to do it, if not at the outset, super, super early before you actually figure out any actual balance.
Yeah. And Josh and I were talking about this with like Diablo 3's example, and how the game was not really balanced for the auction house system in the original version of it, and I can't even talk anymore. The disaster, there we go, that it caused in terms of balance and itemization right up until patch 1.04, and that was when they just said, we give up, we're getting rid of the auction house. Although I will say the only good thing that came out of it was I did sell enough to pay off my collector's edition. So
awesome.
I basically got Diablo 3 for free with that. So I guess it did work to some extent there.
Yeah, I vaguely remember the auction house. I never got to participate in it.
Hmm.
There were other games that had auction houses that I did, but didn't actually sell
Yeah.
anything there. Um,
Um,
Interesting concept.
yeah. Shao was asking like, what games did you guys publish like beforehand? Uh,
Oh, like at Wait for
yeah.
for Indie
Yeah.
Voyage, we just published three indie games.
Hmm.
We did Reassembly that came out in 2014. We did Zavix Tower in 2015. No, sorry, 2015, 2016, and then this last year we did Venture Forth.
Hmm.
Um, Three very different titles. Reassembly is a vector-based space exploration slash shooter. Zavix Tower is a turn-based, party-based,
Hmm.
old school RPG experience, and then Venture Forth is a kind of a different look to it. It's
Hmm.
a very much a Metroidvania, programmed from absolute scratch. So it's a very impressive game. Doesn't look great, but once you play it, I think it's a pretty good experience.
Hmm. And I did do a live talk and a podcast with the developer of Venture Forth as well. So I think that should be somewhere here on the channel if you want to look that one up.
Yeah. Just FYI, we don't at this point. Indie Voyage is kind of on the way
Hmm.
out, so we don't make any money off these games anymore. I pitch them because I like the guys and I think
Yeah.
their games are nice. So this is completely not self-indulgent anymore.
Yeah.
I can now say that with honesty.
Yep, and Zavik Tower, if you're a fan of like that old school dungeon crawling, build your party and go explore, it was a really good example of that.
Yeah, that one was. I mean, I loved Bard's Tale growing up, and
Hmm.
that was just kind of reminiscent of that. When I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, I love this game." So yeah, that's one of my the. I have a soft spot in my heart for it.
1 second here. I'm just going to adjust the size of the window. Make sure people can actually see everything on there. That should be good. I may just have to move things or shrink them up. Maybe this will help. There we go. So I'll make sure that people can actually see the chat. Good. But yeah, getting back to the topic, when it comes to the idea of monetization, it's just one of those things that, as you said a few minutes ago, that it can be a lose-lose. You either make it so intrusive and so annoying that it pisses people off and they don't pay, or it's so easy that they don't need to pay, and then you're just kind of stuck with it. Especially if your game is free to play and there's no other revenue stream.
Yeah, I know Zynga infamously had some like design book that was just meant to, suck money out of its players, and not all of its players, obviously, but that small percentage of whales.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I never got a look at this book. I never worked for them, which I
Mm-hmm.
guess would be the only way to do it. But it just seemed like this very weird kind of like Necronomicon of the games industry.
the, the dark tome right there, the
Yeah.
forbidden text. And like I was saying this on YouTube on the comments, like I've been playing the mobile game Idle Heroes, which is again just like a very simple game. It is 100% a gotcha based system there, and like I'm seeing again like what they're expecting out of you if you want to have any attempt at progressing, and it is just frustrating when you see that in these games because again there are people who have sunk hundreds of dollars into them to get all the best stuff, but how is that really good design? And like how is that sustainable? Like this is the biggest thing. Like whenever I talk about my thoughts on the mobile market, this is one of those big things I have is that if you convince someone to spend $200-300 on your game, what's going to convince them to spend that on the next game they play? Will they even have
Mm.
that money? So how do you build something that's sustainable? Like I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, Supercell's done it, and it's really just all about because the whales, the people you go
Mm-hmm.
after, they do not run out of money, and that's why they're there. They have a much longer lifespan than the average player. Obviously, they've got more money, and they're going to be spending it the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is to just make sure that they churn because you're going to lose them. So you just want to make sure there's people to back them up.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I hate talking like that because it feels dirty. It makes me
Yeah.
want to wash my hands, but that's just how the mobile industry has kind of gone
Mm-hmm.
for these powerhouses that dominate the top 10 money makers.
Yeah.
Um, they have their cash cow, and they're not gonna let go of it.
Yeah.
They're gonna design and make sure it's as good, it's as efficient as possible in
Hmm.
terms of getting money out of people.
Yeah. And I tried Clash Royale earlier this weekend. After like 20 minutes of playing, I was like, no, I don't want to play this game anymore. Like, it just annoyed the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Like, when I saw like someone just beating me because their characters were like 2, 3 levels higher than me. It's like, can I do anything?
Yeah.
No. Then what's the point of playing?
Right.
Or another point was, what was it? Oh, you win, but then I have to wait 3.5 hours before I open up my treasure chest of rewards.
Yeah. Yeah. To what Alberto was saying. Oh boy, we got another one. Uh, you need lots of poor fishes around to get the.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. There's like four different types of. There's four different types of users for one of those games. There's the people who come in and don't talk about your game; they just play it. They don't spend money. They don't do anything. They just play the game. Then there's the people who come on and share the experience with others, and that's very valuable. But they don't spend money. Then there's the people who spend the money. Oh gosh, well, there's the whales, of course, and then there's one other that I'm, for whatever reason, forgetting, because I thought of this the other day and now it's left my brain. I watched a whole talk about it at one of the conferences I went to. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's always that issue. Like, I was talking about this earlier in one of my posts, that kind of paywall that we see in the free-to-play mobile market, it reminds me very much of what we see in like CCG games like Hearthstone, Gwent, and so on. That the longer the game is out, the harder it becomes to get new people in. Because how are you supposed to compete with someone in Hearthstone who has bought every pack and every expansion, and you just start playing, and you're both at the same rank essentially because they reset the ladder? Like, how is that fun for someone to enjoy a game when it's just like, what the hell are they using? I've never seen these cards before.
yeah, and I mean I had the same feeling when Magic: The Gathering first came out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean it's a great game. Don't get me wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when you're basically, you got one pack and the other person's got another, and if they spent more money, it's a higher likelihood that they've got solid cards.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, the deck is stacked against you. So um, I don't know. It's always, that's always fascinated me, the CCG
Mm-hmm.
genre, just because it just feels unfair to me, and I wouldn't want to jump into it. Uh, but hey, I mean, it's a massive, massive industry, and it attracts a lot of people. There's a lot of skill involved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the concept of having kind of a less, stacked deck and beating someone who's got a higher deck just through skill, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
probably very much a driving force for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
competitive players.
Yeah. And I'm still keeping my eye out on Gwen in terms of what they're going to be doing with balance and design. I mean, every patch they seem to just break the game in some way, shape, or form. So I'm curious about what they're going to do next time. But it is going to be very interesting to see how Gwent, I think, manages to differentiate itself going forward in terms, especially of the power curve. I think that's always one of the more interesting aspects, especially with games as a service being more of an element these days. How do
Hmm.
you keep people playing a game not just for, a month or 2 months? How do you keep them playing for 6 months or a year? Or in some like Payday 2's case, they've been doing it for, I think we are going past 3 years of Payday 2 right now.
Yeah, I don't know the money vacuum on
Yeah.
exactly. It's difficult. Like, the one benefit that games like Gwent and Hearthstone have is that there can be an awful lot of them
Mm-hmm.
existing at the same time, because hardcore gamers, while they might dedicate themselves to one, they're
Mm-hmm.
willing to play a lot of them. And so you can have a bunch of CCG games out there. You can have a bunch of MOBAs out there, because there are plenty of players who are going to enjoy one or the other. It's the
Mm-hmm.
whole Microsoft Apple battle. You hate one, but you love the other, but you're going to kind of play with both.
Your Call of
Um,
Duty,
yeah,
Battlefield, stuff like that.
exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if they just they obviously have a massive base right now. It's just making sure they don't piss them off. That's basically the name of the game right now.
Yeah. Because if you piss them off, you're obviously going to go to the next guy.
Yeah.
Now, here's
That,
oh yeah, go ahead, finish your
I was
thought.
just gonna say, and that's the bane of being in the hardcore games business, because hardcore gamers do not put up with a lot. So
Now, speaking about hardcore games, this was a topic that came up earlier this week, or I think it was maybe like at the end of last week, and that was the whole Fortnite versus PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds issue. I don't think we had a chance to talk about it last week, but did you hear about what was going on between them?
I did not.
Basically, Epic is introducing a battle royale mode into Fortnite that's free to play, and Bluehole, the developers behind PUBG, they felt like it was kind of them, kind of like stealing their thunder in a matter of speaking. And it led into that very interesting talk about, can you copyright game design or copyright a game mode or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's that argument as old as games itself. Because every time a popular game comes out, you get a million clones. Since like Pac-Man and Asteroids, that's just major. And of course, it's come up again and again. And no, you can't. And I appreciate that to a great extent, because there's going to be a lot of games out there, a lot of big companies who have money to sue people, who will say, "Oh, well, you copied us." Well, when you have a game like Angry Birds, who copied another game like Castle something or other, well, you've definitely got a lawsuit, but Angry Birds isn't. Rovio is not going to lose a lawsuit of that scope. So it's good that there's that ability to do that, and it's at the same time it sucks. But with the whole Angry Birds thing, Rovio did come and they did a more polished version. So yes, it was copying. Yeah, they wound up doing a better job. So it's. I mean, that's one where you shrug and you just say, well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Hopefully, anyone who copies is able to iterate and improve on it. That's the hope.
And that's what we talked about with Blizzard as well. Blizzard is probably the king of iterating and refining a concept. I know we brought this up before, but they don't make 100% original games. Again, World of Warcraft, EverQuest, Diablo, based on one of the older RPGs at the time, Heroes of the Storm, League of Legends, and we can keep going on. But what they do is they refine that design in such a way that it just elevates it above everyone else. I mean, Diablo 3, that core gameplay loop is amazing to get you hooked. Overwatch the same way, and it works for them. But again, we can say that if you want to play an MMO, there's still EverQuest. Like, they didn't invent the MMO. They just made a really, really good version of that.
Yeah.
Now, here's something that was very interesting. I brought this up in the Industry Insight, but I had a chance to look up while we were talking. Do you know about the loading screen patent, Rob?
I
the
do not.
minigame loading screen patent.
No, I don't.
Apparently, Namco Bandai held the patent for being able to have a little mini game playing while you're on a loading screen.
Oh boy.
And that expired in 2015. But basically, they, like 20 or so years ago, or I'm sorry, like 1983 or even before then, they had a they were the first one to develop a mini game that played while the game was loading, so you had something to do during your time. And apparently they got the patent for that technology, and no one else has been able to do it since, or up until the patent expired.
That's interesting.
And
because, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's why I was just saying, like, why was that allowed a patent? Like, wouldn't that be considered like game design, or would it like skirt the definition?
Well, certainly it's not about copywriting software. It's about copywriting the creative content, because you had the whole DOS thing with Microsoft back in the day, where Microsoft ripped it off, and you could even see the author of DOS in one of the files, and of course they got sued. So, I mean, suing over tech of software specifically is certainly illegal, proving it's always a difficult chore. But when it comes to games, I mean, that's kind of more open-minded or open-ended. One of the things that was interesting to me is because The Sims 3 had a mini game that you could play while it was loading. It was a object find, a hidden object game.
Mm-hmm.
Just click on stuff that it tells you, like find the shovel, click on that,
Mm-hmm.
find the desk, click on that. But that's while the game was loading. So when you say that, it's like, well, that's weird because EA, you'd think they would know something about that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they jumped on it right when the thing expired. I don't know.
Yeah, but that always like struck me as very weird. Like they were able to patent that little piece.
Hmm.
But getting back to the whole Fortnite and player unknown thing, like it's one of those things that I can't really feel sorry to Bluehole about because you can't, like we said, you can't really copy like creative content. You can't copy the actual game design. You can copy the stuff around that, obviously. You know, the look, the sound, even just like the UI elements. But in terms of straight design, like as you said earlier, Rob, the whole Angry Birds and even Flappy Birds is a perfect example because
Hmm.
like, I think it was like literally like 24 hours after Flappy Birds blew up, there was probably a good 50 clones of that game on the
Yeah.
iOS.
Yeah, boy, that thing exploded. And I don't even know, does he still make money off the Flappy Bird's name? That's something I don't even
I
know
don't
anymore.
I don't think it's even available anymore. I think it's no longer being supported. Like he never updated to like the latest version.
Well, the thing is, when I go to, there was a, oh gosh, one of those arcade games that does the tickets, and they had a Flappy Bird that was Flappy
Oh.
Bird, and you could win tickets to that. I didn't know if he was behind that, if he got any money from
Hmm.
that or not. And that's the one thing that's like, I should have
Hmm.
looked up when I had that question.
That's
It's just kind
interesting.
of in the back of my head.
Yeah. I would be curious about that too. But like with the argument, I guess again it's very weird. Like the part that I think they were trying to say was that Epic Games said that they were inspired by Battleground or yeah, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds when they were coming up with the mode for Fortnite. But even then, like you can say anything you want, and it still I think is acceptable in this case. Like I can say I want to make a game like Mario, as long as I don't feature plumbers or the big news. I think Mario is no longer a plumber, which okay, I guess that's fine. Like as long as I don't directly copy Nintendo, there's no problem with that. Like,
Right.
and that's one of those things that goes back also to that topic of fan-made games. Like, while I love to see people work creatively on that, on the same hand, if you're going to name your game Super Mario Online or Metroid, whatever, you're kind of painting that bullseye on your back from minute one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's one thing to allude and pay homage to a game or a property. I think that is a great thing, and certainly Star Wars has thrived off that very
Mm-hmm.
thing for decades now. But yeah, when you go ahead and say, "Well, this is my Mario game" or "This is my Metroid game,"
Mm-hmm.
no, you can't. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and speaking about that, did you watch the footage I have of a robot named Fight on the stream yet?
I did not see your stream of that. I saw
Mm-hmm.
that it was there. I had no idea what that was about.
That
Is
is
that a,
a Metroidvania style roguelike, and the game looks like very Metroid inspired. Like your robot does like the same, it has like the same kind of like sound effects for the shooting. He does the jump that turns into like the spinning cartwheel in the air, and it just looks and feels like Metroid, but in the same breath, it's not. It's still an original game that feels heavily inspired. The same thing we could say
yeah.
for Axiom Verge. Axiom Verge looks very much like a NES Metroid style game, but that is still an entirely original game.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that really sucks. Magora was saying that apparently the Flyberg developer like stepped away and he left things like he basically just stepped away and let the other people just like come on in. And
Yeah.
that's always very tricky because you never know like when something's going to blow up like that. It's the same thing
Yeah.
like copywriting and trademarking elements.
Yeah. It's the whole I refer to like Dave Chappelle when he had the show and it blew up and he suddenly got all this money and he walked away from it. Yeah, it's got to be intimidating. I've never
Yeah.
been like whether for good or for bad. I never got
Mm-hmm.
faced with that kind of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And people would say, "Oh, well, that's a great problem to have," and certainly I've said that myself.
Yeah.
But there's a certain pressure that comes up. I mean, when
Uh,
you have that lightning in a bottle and you've suddenly got everyone in the world looking at your game, that can't be fun. I mean,
mm-hmm.
it brings with it all kinds of problems.
Oh yeah, we've talked about it before with indie developers. Like, what do you do when your game that you didn't think was going to be that big blows up and is, like Game of the Year mentions and everyone's talking about it, how do you follow up with that with your next project? Like, a
Yeah.
lot of people feel that it becomes like, well, now I have to. We talked about this before with going big. Now we have to make our next game be, completely procedurally generated, massively multiplayer online game, and we'll spend the next 5 years on it, kind of thing. And then there's also the fact, I know a lot of people suffer from like that. I forget the term, a pretender syndrome, or when you feel, or imposter syndrome, that, I
Hmm.
made this game, but am I really that good? Like, was this just a fluke? Can I actually keep working in this industry? And it's definitely a very risky thing, and we can even talk about things from a Kickstarter and crowdfunding point of view. What happens when you ask for $20,000 and you get $750,000? We've talked about that before with, you know, do I make the same game I was planning? Or how do I take my idea and add 725,000 more dollars worth of value to it?
Yeah, it's difficult because I know a lot of people will, and I feel like there was one recently that did this. Oh no, we talked about it. It was that the clown game, the where everyone's a clown. I can't remember the name of it now.
Payday?
Um,
Or
no, no, no. It's the one where, oh God, I wish I could remember. It's like a city that's film noir or whatever, and like there's one regular person and he gets turned into a cloud by the end of the like trailer, and it got in trouble for raising their price. Um, I can't remember the name of that game.
oh, are you talking about We Happy Few?
We Happy Few, yeah. Where
Uh,
they, I don't know if they're clowns or not, but that's what made me think of it. Um, but like when you are an indie developer and you get all that money, some of them might think, okay, well, I'm just going to lead a giant team, and making that switch, as we've discussed before, is impossible. Like uh, being a solo indie dev who has no barely an experience in the industry, suddenly becoming the leader of a giant team and having to manage money and all that
mm-hmm.
stuff. Yeah, you've basically shot yourself in the foot. And when you do have all that money, you have to ask yourself, what do you do with it?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse
It,
me. Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people say that having like limitations like that can be very useful for you because they set guidelines where you can and can't do. If you
Hmm.
know you can't make a fully realized open world game or that open world technology, that kind of grounds your thinking in reality. So you can start thinking about how this game will actually play in someone's hands rather than just saying, oh, I'm going to add spaceships and now I'm going to add uh, crazy stuff like that. Again, I'm on medicine right now, so I can't go too crazy in my suggestions. Hey, William, thanks for coming on. Speaking about that, here's a perfect example. You know about Star Citizen, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's been a while.
Well,
I think I might have it.
that game has certainly ran into the issue of, I think, more money leading to more problems. Because people have just been saying that it just seems like it's going downhill because they're just keep adding more and more and more to the scope, and nothing really seems to be getting done. Like, let me load up the page right now, and I can give you the exact amount, hopefully, of what
Oh, Chris
they've
Roberts.
raised. Get ready for this one. Uh,
You brought this up before. That's why I know it,
oh
I
my
think.
God. They have raised $159 million.
Oh my God. Is that through the non-Kickstarter thing that they started?
Kickstarter plus the site itself plus people buying the ships and oh my God. I can't, and that's the thing, I cannot imagine the game that you could make with $159 million. I mean,
Oh yeah.
how do you how do you see the money in that? Like, that's like we've talked about before with the trouble of seeing where the money goes with game development, and that is a perfect example. And I'm looking on their page right now of all, oh my God, all the goals they've had. Here's one: they're going to add in realistic alien languages to the game.
Oh
They'll
jeez.
bring a linguistic on people to actually create noises and actual speak. Let's see. Here is I'm trying to find some of the crazier ones.
What's the launch date for all this stuff?
I don't know.
Because it's not like creating a language is done overnight, and then all the animations and writing that has to go along with it. Like, just because you made a language doesn't mean you've made a story with it.
Uh-huh. The last goal, it looks like, was for $65 million. And that was for enhanced, I know, enhanced ship modularity. I don't know what that does exactly. But again, like, that's kind of the issue. And El Gordo was talking about it in chat. That there's no release date. They're just adding stuff to it. But again, like, everything you add means more work, and what happens if it breaks something beforehand? And I know, I'm pretty sure they've had to change the engine that they were working on at some point during development, and you and I both know that when you're changing the game engine of your title, something, that's a red flag. The ship is taking on water kind of situation.
Like, how many times are they going to have to go back and reset from the beginning their code? Because I mean, once you start adding very complicated systems that have to integrate with the core of your code, well, there's going to be a lot of focus on that whole, foundation. And, you can't break the foundation or else the game is toast. It's such a, God, it blows my mind. I can't imagine doing this. Launch something and build on top of that. Like,
exactly. Because when you're not doing that, it makes, again, like, without having any kind of limits or hard stops, the game just, as Laura says, it's going to be internal development until, it's going to break. And when it does break, I think that's going to probably be the new poster child for, Kickstarter Hindenburg crashing going on.
Oh, yeah. It's like what it brought to my mind was the Winchester Mansion. I don't know how much you know about that.
Why does that sound familiar?
In like, I think it's San Jose or around that area, there's a Winchester Mansion, and the wife of the Winchester person who made the rifle, she kind of went a little crazy and started building, just having carpenters just build stuff she told them to build, like staircases to nowhere and doors that have nothing behind them, and she just kept having them build and build and build, and there was no point to any of it. And it's kind of famous for being this weird oddity, and it's supposed to be haunted, and it's just kind of this landmark in its area. But it's just that kind of mentality of just keep building, whatever happens, don't stop, and there's no complete house out of it. It's just this structure with weird stuff in it.
And speaking about that, in terms of like weird structures, the story about Richard Garriott, right? The guy who made Ultima.
No.
That apparently when he made his money, he actually built a castle that he lived in for his home. Like, just a full-on, like, medieval castle, I think, somewhere in, the Midwest or on the West Coast there. And, like, every time I hear this, I'm like, if I ever get, like, that stupidly expensive, I may actually have to do that. Just build a castle and, live and put booby traps and trap doors somewhere.
I mean, you might as well. It's like, it's better than building a game to nowhere.
Yeah, at least the castle gets done. And maybe I could put, like, right next to someone else who has a castle, and we can have, like, mock medieval battles.
Yeah, a little LARPing.
Exactly. The best damn LARPing ever, right there. That's how you earn the money back. You charge the LARPers to come, though they can use the castle for their game. It'll pay for itself in like 10 years?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a fascinating thing going on. I wish I had more knowledge of this. This is crazy, like literally crazy.
I have a friend, Brian Rubin of Space Game Junkie, who covers like all the space games. I talked to him on the podcast about it, and this was like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And he was all like, at that point, he was like, yeah, this is starting to look a little bit off the rails. And I know, like, now it's just insane. They've stopped doing goals for the game because I think they're starting to realize that there's nothing there. Like, what else can you add?
Yeah.
Oh, that's I'm just reading El Gore. He goes, if he had the money, he'll build the darkest dungeon estate with the cove and all the areas.
as long as there's not as much death. That'd be bad for visitors.
Hmm. But the mosquitoes, yeah, if you can
Yeah.
get some 5 foot tall mosquitoes right there. But what were you saying?
Do you remember the whole Kurt Schilling MMO debacle?
Is was that the Kingdom of Amalur, or was that the
I don't
hmm,
think I ever knew the name, but he started the MMO. He borrowed money from the state of Rhode Island
it's
and
I
basically ran it all into the ground, like tens of millions of dollars.
that sounds so familiar. Let me see. Yeah, so here's a Studio 30. Here it is. So they were trying to release the game. They released the game Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, and it was bankrupt. They were trying to. Oh, here's the MMO Project Copernicus, according to Wikipedia. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, and you know the whole story about. Oh crap! I can't remember the name. Um, Silicon Knights, the developers behind Eternal Darkness, and what
Mm-mm.
they did with the X-Men game they were working on.
Was that the one that they kept using the people that they shouldn't be using or something like that? I could be completely wrong.
They were
Let
like
me know. Tell me so I don't just keep guessing.
they supposedly used money that they basically funneled the money that they were going to use on that game into another project. I think that was the
Oh,
Two Human game, and so they just bargain bin shovelware the whole thing out of the X-Men game. They basically lied to Marvel about the
sheesh.
scope of the game and what was going on with it.
Why would you do that?
Hmm.
That's like really poking the bear. They could totally demolish any hope you have of a career.
Yeah, and that just crushed the studio, and also pretty much blacklisted like the CEO of Silicon Knights. Like he tried to do a Kickstarter inspired sequel to Eternal Darkness, or a spiritual sequel, and it just collapsed. There were reports of some very nasty things behind the scenes, according to like one of the people on the project. And I mean, it was just again like another like slow moving car crash. Yeah, and it sounds very similar to what Gearbox did with Colonial Marines, and how they kind of funneled the money they were working on that into Borderlands 2. Because obviously Borderlands 2 was their own original project. Well, Aliens they would have shared that money with is that Fox that owns the IP to Alien,
It's
or
Alien.
Universal?
It must be Universal.
Hmm.
It must be. Um, the one thing that about that I know from experience, third-party devs,
Hmm.
most of them, if not all of them, they got into the business to make their own games, and the third-party stuff was just a way, a means to the end.
Hmm.
So I can imagine the desperation being there of like you're living basically paycheck to paycheck, and
Yeah.
there's no out. So you never get the money to make your own game, and so at some point you're just like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm manufacturing this money,
Hmm.
and I can imagine that temptation is just too great.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing like with Borderlands, like Borderlands turned out to be a really good game. But at the same time, it's kind of like, does two wrongs make a right? Or, you know, the right end, or what was it, doing the wrong thing for the right reason kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing like when you sign a contract to help another, like to, take on
Mm-hmm.
work. I mean, that this goes to reason that you should honor that contract as best as possible. You don't want to be the person in the wrong when that thing
Mm-hmm.
goes, belly up.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alberto, for finding that. That's
Mm-hmm.
good research. We need a research person here.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like the whole thing, like with like keeping track of these things. And like getting back to Star Citizen for a second, I think this will be our last thing, and then we'll move on to another topic. Because we could just sit here and stare at the Star Citizen
oh
page
my
for another
God,
20 minutes.
yeah, talk about your car crash.
Is that like this is why there's always this is why it's important to have someone who understands the management side when it comes to building a video game. Because if you take people who have had no experience managing a group or a budget, and you say, "Hey, your game did well. Here's $3 million. Go make something else," they're just going to go crazy with that money or go completely overboard. And I hate to say it, but it sounds like, again, this happened with Clockwork Empires and Gaslamp Games, and how the success of Dreadmore was so over the top that their only thought was, we need to do bigger and badder and more awesome, and they just completely, buried themselves in all that scope of creating Clockwork Empires. And it just really sucks about that, because the studio was really on track. But again, there's so many ways to sink a studio, even if you're great at game design.
Yeah, I think the one thing that people kind of, it's like a bad word almost in a lot of industries, but absolutely required in most, is that you need a project manager. And if you can get a project manager on your team and listen to that person, then you stand a chance, because that's the person who organizes everything from budget to time to, who has how many hours dedicated to what thing. That is the biggest part. It's the organization. It's like, and as soon as you're that developer and you get all that money, you don't want anyone else taking that creative stuff away from you, but you can't do without at least a few other creative people involved. And I believe that's another point of massive friction.
Oh yeah, we've seen that in many industries. When someone gets, the God complex, I made this, so I must be brilliant, and how dare you, try and criticize or talk back to me. I'm the, I made so and so, so I must know what I'm doing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, let's move on to another topic, or again, this could just turn into both of us just reaction shots to Star Citizen. But one other game that I did play lately would be Pinball FX3. I know we talked about, didn't you play one of the pinball games on smartphone?
I've played several. I think I've played that one too, but it was Zen. Zen was the one that I played the most.
Yeah, so Pinball FX3, they actually just released it. I believe it's been released. I know it's on the PC. I don't know it's available on iOS or smartphone yet. But this is very weird, and I was talking about this on a chat last night with El Gordo. But the thing they did with Pinball FX3 is there's now persistent rewards that you can unlock that give you bonuses while you're playing on tables. Like they'll give bonus bumper score or additional ball save, and it's like, I'm leveling up in a pinball? What? Like, this doesn't feel like right to me. But it's just like very crazy how they're trying to integrate that kind of persistent into the sport of pinball.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who will never ever play a digital pinball game. They're the purists, so you might as well just kick that concept to the curb in terms of being your dedicated real pinball machine on on an iPhone or whatever. You gotta get rid of that idea. And I know I've had arguments with my friends on this, and they just like, oh my god, poo to that. And and to me, like when I play Zen Pinball, they bring in these properties like Star Wars and Family Guy even, and I have an Aliens one. And it's great to see that, and they can do things that a pinball machine just can't do, like have animated creatures flying across the board and like hologram stuff. It's really, really cool, and the game never breaks. It's just that's the one thing you can do without it. Yeah. So I love that pinball games are starting to bring in new features and just start to kind of like, you know what, we're not ever going to be real pinball, so we might as well kind of embrace the digital medium.
Yeah. And yeah, I know the same thing, Pinball FX versus the Pinball Arcade. Like I said this on the stream last night, it's weird playing both of them because they use completely different physics models for how the ball operates.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things that's like learning to drive a car on the left side of the road kind of thing when you go international. I'm so used to the Pinball Arcade now, just due to the more realistic physics. But it is very interesting, as you said, with what they do with the tables. Like with the Universal Pack, they have Back to the Future now. So they basically use like the time travel. There's I think 5 different versions of the table based on what movie you're playing. So when you're 1985 Back to the Future 2, there's different things on the table than when you're in Back to the Future 3 and you're in 1855.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. That
Yeah,
sounds great. I'll have to do that one.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been so focused on Zen, I haven't thought about trying out the other ones.
yeah. And yeah, the pop-ups were annoying because we were seeing them like coming up every few seconds saying, "You earn experience for a combo. You earn experience for a trick shot." I'm like, okay, that's great. I will have to check the next time I decide to stream that or whatever if there's a way to turn off those notifications because that will certainly make life a lot easier.
When did you stream that one? I'll have to watch it.
Last night, and I just
Oh,
made the
cool.
video, or I cut it off from the stream today, so it should be
Oh, cool.
there now for it.
Nice.
Let's see. We are, I think we're just about at an hour, but I know there's a few topics I want to bring up. So, one thing we have from the Discord, we were talking about CRPG versus JRPG design, and Josh was talking about just completely bouncing off of Persona 5. Did you have a chance to play Persona 5 yet, Rob?
No, you had mentioned the Shin Megami Tensei. I
Mm-hmm.
played those on the PS2, and so you can tell how long it's been.
Mm-hmm.
Console games in general, I'm not going to be too up on. Even the AAA PC ones, I'm not going to be terribly versed in, just because I'm so focused on either older titles
Mm-hmm.
or more indie stuff.
Yeah, and El Gordo just reminded me of he mentioned this on to me on Twitter that there is a piracy report that was revealed this week that they did a study about video game piracy, and apparently it's not. They found that there's no real correlation between piracy and impacting a game's overall sales. In the sense of what developers have been saying that piracy is killing games and all that, they found that there's not really a connection there, which is
Well,
very.
that's
Yep, go ahead.
it, it's kind of one of those things where I think a lot of us might have known that. Now, did they talk about all games, or are they focused on AAA or indie? Like, is it everything? Because that
Don't
is very important to know if that's the case for
I
everybody.
don't know. I don't. Let's see if Elgato left me a link. While I'm looking that up, Jason, the Discord we're talking about, we have a Game Wisdom Discord channel. Basically, $1 or more to the Patreon will get you in. $5 gets you VIP stash. I have a private voice and text channel. You'll get like a little different color on your name. But just $1 more to Patreon, and you'll be able to get the link to it. Oh, they did the report and hide the results to the public. That's
Of
interesting.
course, of course.
Let's see if I can
Some of
find.
those reports cost like tens of thousands of dollars, and then you can start writing articles and stuff on it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to do some of the research that goes into finding those, but never buying them.
Yeah, so the European Union withheld a study from 2014 that shows piracy doesn't hurt sales. And yeah, that is. And again, like as you said, like, it's one of those things I think we've kind of known about this for a while. Like, I've brought up this story many times when we talk about piracy, but I've known people in the past, I won't say their names, but they will pirate everything. They
Mm,
don't care at all if it's from a $60 developer or a two-man studio selling a game for $5. If they see a game, they're going to pirate it. And for those people, they're never going to be your consumer.
right,
They're
right,
never going to do it. So
right.
it's like it's very hard to say that. Well, if they didn't pirate, they were of course going to buy it. I'm like, nah. If they couldn't pirate, they would just say screw it and move on to something
Right.
else.
That's the thing. Like, if you have $60 in your hand and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, I want to buy this game," and then someone goes like, "You know what? Just pirate it." And I mean, do they really turn around from the counter, put the money in their pocket,
Mm-hmm.
and go home and play it? I mean, there's certain knowledge that goes with piracy.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, one, know where to get it, know that it's there, and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But there's also, like, ease of use. You got $60, you're not going to get some weird virus, probably. You're
Hopefully.
just going to get your game and play it and have support and all that stuff. So you might, I mean, you don't have to worry about it to just buy it. I don't know. I
Yeah.
agree. I mean, like, yeah, pirates are going to pirate. That's just how it is.
Exactly, and we talked about this before with the whole Denuvo copy protection. We of course mentioned that they keep saying no one can break our piracy, and then it gets broken like 48 hours later. Like we've said, copy protection is not the perfect solution. It's never meant to be the perfect solution.
Yeah, it's just a speed bump.
Hmm. And once it's cracked, you can't, like, a developer would, in their right mind, wouldn't say, well, our cover protection is broken, let's go add another one. Like, it's not going to happen. And we've seen many cases of cover protection getting in the way of legitimate people playing. And as you just said, Rob, one of the worst things that can happen is when you restrict that ease of use. When you make it a hassle for someone to buy your game or play it, all you're doing is then you're making the argument for piracy better. Because
Yeah.
if someone, like, I've known friends who, what they'll do is they'll buy the game to support the developer, but then they'll use the pirated copy or the no CD crack because they don't want to deal with that. And why should they? They
Yeah.
paid you the money.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like, there's nothing there that you said that I'm like, nope, that's not the case. No, it is. Ever since I was a kid, it's like that's I go play the pay the money, but like it's
Hmm.
a lot of work to play games on a PC when in the 1980s and early 90s. So
Hmm.
anything you can find to make it easier is like a huge benefit.
Yeah. I think one thing that's also very interesting, the report from 2015, is that since the 90s and the thousands, Steam and digital platforms have become a major part, and they of course are copy protection. They are DRM there. So, but in that case, they're adding the value of chat and free updates and basically compartmentalizing all your content in one place. So the need for copy protection like Secure ROM or Denuvo or Starforce, or I'm sure we can think of a few more, it's kind of not needed in today's day and age, especially when Steam or Origin or Uplay kind of does it for you.
But that's where the whole Steam keys problem comes in,
Hmm.
because it's not pirating; it's just getting a free code, or a very, very, very cheap one.
And you're getting it from a site, so surely it must be reputable.
Yeah, yeah,
G2A is the most legitimate website out there. Oh,
of
God, I
course.
probably shouldn't have said that. Now, if someone finds it, they'll use it as a marketing plug. That was sarcasm for anyone
Yeah.
watching. But yeah, it's just a very interesting case regarding like piracy, especially in today's world. Like we've kind of moved on from just like the no CD hacks. They're trying to, I guess, in a way, legitimize piracy using black market CD keys, and again, that whole Steam key buying and selling.
Yeah, and I know we've probably run like beat that horse pretty hard.
Hmm.
I mean, I could talk about that for forever because I hate it so much. But yeah, it is the new piracy. I feel if you're going to talk about piracy, that's kind of the new one. And just like you said with piracy, uh, people who are going to buy your game are going to buy the game, and otherwise they're just getting a game they've
Hmm.
never heard of for free
Yep.
or cheap.
Hmm. So let me see. Oh yeah, one thing that I think, since we're just about over an hour, we'll probably wrap things up in the next few minutes. But this was a topic I know you wanted to talk about, Rob. We were talking about this on our Discord as well, and that is regarding content that someone creates that is basically tied to an expansion or tied to an additional purchase. And this is a very interesting case. It's one that has definitely come up more with games as a service and especially with Steam Workshop integration. But I'll let you explain it.
Well, it came up recently. I was watching one of the streamers I like to watch. He does Game Faced Gamer. He does a lot of Planet Coaster stuff, and
Hmm.
that's a game I like to play. And Planet Coaster, it just comes out with great add-ons every week, like upgrades to the
Hmm.
game, like the core game. You don't have to buy them. But they came up with, as you had mentioned for the pinball thing, a universal plugin or
Hmm.
expansion that you had to pay, and it came with Back to the Future stuff, the Munsters stuff,
Hmm.
and one other property that I can't remember off the top of my head. But basically, you could do all this interesting stuff. You could have
Hmm.
the DeLorean and all that kind of stuff in your park and your rides and
Hmm.
whatever. But if you don't have the expansion, you can't see these other people's content. And the whole game is based very solidly on being
Hmm.
able to download people's rides and parks and stuff. But if you don't have the Back to the Future thing, you can't download and play any of that stuff. So I think we had talked, I know
Hmm.
Josh had said, the best solution is just allow people to see it but not use it. And I can imagine that that brings up any number of technical problems, but I feel like that is the best solution.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're damaging streamers because they have to buy it, and there are people who are watching might not be able to play the items and levels they're creating. Um, and as a player, like it feels limiting. It feels a little gross. I mean, I certainly, when I was playing The Sims, I bought every expansion just because I like seeing all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm some kind of weird completionist that way. But at the same time, like, yeah, it's a problem. I can't let people play my creations if they don't have all the expansions. Because if I use one little thing, like a couch in The Sims,
Mm-hmm.
or some piece of rebar that looked good from the Universal thing in Planet Coaster, like they suddenly can't use my item, and that gets
Hmm.
frustrating.
Yeah, and that also adds. That also becomes very complicated when you start having multiple expansions or content
Yeah,
that's spread throughout multiple purchases. Like, does someone need to buy DLC pack C, F, and L in order to see my thing? But what if they only own A, D, and R?
yeah,
Or and stuff like that. And Elgora was mentioning the Bethesda Creation Club. I think this is a different talk. The Bethesda one, for those of you who don't know, that's the issue with them basically having paid mods through this, which from a lot of people are saying they're just like the other stuff that's in Fallout, except you're paying money to Bethesda to use them. Yeah, and that's another good point there, Elgora, about um, being able to show that content. You said the same thing, Rob, that it's better to have that content be available as an enticement rather than as a straight up lock. A really
yeah.
good example is what they did with Payday 2. You can go, if as long as the host has bought the DLC for a heist, you can play that heist whether you bought it or not. You'll get
That's
the
cool.
same rewards for playing that. You'll get the achievements, but if you want to actually own the heist and get like the weapons and the masks and all that stuff, you still need to own that.
Yeah,
But if you want to play it, join their game. I mean, that's one of the things I do with Payday 2. Like, I'm basically from my friends, I'm the guy who bought everything. So whenever I was able to get my friends to play, I would host the games because I had all the maps. So
right.
we got to play. Now, did they get the weapons? No. But they were still able to experience it. It wasn't a case of them joining my lobby and saying, oh, Josh turned on so and so, get out. You can't be
Yeah,
here for that.
yeah. I know Vainglory,
Mm-hmm.
which is a MOBA on mobile, the mobile MOBA. It really has that same thing because it's got loot crates and it's got this same thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't get all the heroes when you start.
Oh, of
There's
course.
like 20 or so heroes, and you might get three to start. So if you want to play a multiplayer game, you are suddenly the person who is restricting your entire team
Oh,
because you
God.
only get three characters to pick from, and if they're not the character that your team needs, well, they're kind of screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they're playing just like your collectible card game. If your team is playing someone who has all the characters and
Mm-hmm.
all the skins and they know what they're doing, well, even if you know what you're doing, you're at a massive disadvantage. So
Mm-hmm.
it's weird because it forces you to pay to play.
Mm-hmm.
Does It's not really pay to win necessarily because you can get good with any character, but like it is a handicap.
Yeah. By the way, Josh was talking to me about this before on my first Skype chat of the evening tonight, so I'm gonna have to download that one tonight and just see how it goes. But
Yeah,
yeah, and that's always very tricky. Like getting back to the original topic regarding having this content spread out like that. Like as you said, with something like Planet Coaster, a lot of that is built on people sharing the creations they made. But like what
yeah.
you're saying is like, let's say I build a ride and I just so happen to use like a flag or a bench in a DLC pack. So if you don't have that DLC pack, you can't see the entire thing that I built.
I believe that's the case. I'm going to have to just verify,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe that's the case. I know in The Sims,
Mm-hmm.
back this was Sims 3. If you go onto their store, you'll see people's creations, and you'll see because they have like 12 to 15
Mm-hmm.
expansions, and you'll see all these little icons, these little tiny circles that
Mm.
represent all the expansions that they have that you need to be able to play that or to be able to
Oh
use that
God.
particular thing. And I mean, when you're at 15 or so, like you might as well just own them all because you're not going to just pick out 4 or 5 expansions
Mm-hmm.
just to play with that particular house or town or whatever.
And of course, the other problem then starts becoming very confusing. Like I talked about before with Europa Universalis, and they're like up to I can actually Google, or we can do a quick Steam look on this. How many expansions are in Europa? Let's see. Europa Universalis 4. And I'm not even sure how many I actually own. Let's see. Okay, so there are 29 pieces of DLC. And apparently I own 4, 5... I own 9 somehow. Again, I bought it at some point. I just don't know when. But it's one of those very weird cases when there's so much. Like, how do you know what to buy? Why the hell do I own Songs of Yuletide in Europa Universalis 4? That's a really good question. Apparently I own a Native American unit pack. I don't own the Evangelical Majors unit pack. And I know there are expansions that I don't have as well to it. But it's one of those cases, and we've talked about this before, there's also the perception of it. When you go on a Steam page for the first time, and you see a game, and you see a DLC that stretches way from top to bottom, it's like, do I even want to try and commit to this? Because you know, like, yes, the game may be on sale for like $5, but then you see $200 worth of DLC.
Yeah, and it may be a good game, but it's a daunting thing to look at. Because if you have any interest, like part of you really likes to experience the whole thing, well, you're basically saying, I'm not going to be buying the whole thing. But if you like it, suddenly you're in. It's a huge expense. It's like that's what when I look at Sims 3 and the expansions I own, I'm like, oh my god, I've spent $600 on Sims 3. What kind of weirdo am I? And it really is. It creeps up on you, and it's just like that's why I've never played Sims 4. I'm not going to do it because I've already gone through that weirdness. So it's like, okay, I like simulation games. I love The Sims 3. I thought it was great. I like playing with it, but at a certain point, it's just you got to step away. Yeah. It becomes a problem.
Yeah. By the way, I just looked up Train Simulator, and guess how much DLC it has for it?
I have no idea.
It has. Hold on, I'm still scrolling down. Where are you? It has about 400 pieces of DLC.
Oh my god!
And the actual cost for all the DLC right now is $4,397 to buy it all. Oh, I'm sorry, 316 DLC. Oh my god! My brain. I don't think my brain can handle that right now.
We're at Warhammer. Is it Warhammer? I think so. Yeah, we're at Warhammer levels of obsession with a game. Because you buy the game, sure, you get the starter pack, but man, you've suddenly spent $20,000 in a good portion of your life learning Warhammer all of a sudden.
No, I was right the first time. It was 405. The 316 was the new pieces. No, it's 405 pieces of DLC for Train Simulator. And the game is $40. Just to buy the game by itself, it's still $40 too.
Yeah, with Sims 3, with El Gordo, it's like, as far as the last time I checked, they did not reduce the price that much. So there's Sims 4. It's been out for a couple of years now. They still charge you a lot for Sims 3. Yeah. Just in case you have it and you don't want to buy Sims 4, they're still going to get money out of you.
Yeah. And by the way, that Train Simulator DLC, a lot of it is at 50 and 60% discount right now, and it's still over $4,000 worth of DLC. Oh my goodness. I'm just waiting for like the day like there's like a price error and it's like $4.39 for the DLC, and just what would happen, like Steam would like blow up on itself that day of people ordering that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Don't look it up on Steam, Robert. You'll be shocked by it like I am.
I'm still stuck on the whole what's this called? Star Citizen. Yeah. I'm going to be looking at that a while and just shaking my head.
All right, but we are certainly running a little bit long, which is always nice when we have so many things to talk about. But I think
we'll have to save the JRPG thing for next week.
Yeah, maybe we can get Josh on too, and we'll have like a three-way discussion, and that will probably be like 4 hours, I think, between the three of us talking. But
I will set aside the time.
Yeah, but as a quick to wrap things up, a quick schedule going forward, I will be reposting the podcast I did I think it was Strife Games last week. It was the talking about casual game tabletop design. That will be the podcast for this week. That will be going up tomorrow. I will obviously, I don't know if I'm going to be getting a press key for Cuphead, but I think I may just be buying it while there's a quick sale on Green Man. But that will definitely be the Friday night stream. I will do my damnedest not to start playing it beforehand. For tonight's stream, I think I'll do that first look at the game Judge. We'll do it kind of live, and maybe if there's time, we'll maybe go back to Vaporum, or even watch me finish off Omega Strike. And what else? Oh yeah, I did put in a press key request for Etrian Odyssey 5. And my fingers are firmly crossed that I get that, because I love the Etrian Odyssey series. And yeah, if I can, I will certainly be talking about that one till the cows come home. But I guess for you, Rob, do you have any plans for streaming this weekend or anything that you're going to be up to?
I've actually been up and down. I streamed a couple of times last week during the week, and I've done it once already this week. I may do it again. You know, once you're done, like after midnight here, I do it for like an hour. But yeah, on the weekend it's usually 4 hours each day. I've been doing Torchlight. I'm for some reason I've just been getting into it more and more and forcing myself to get more into it. So I'll have to check that out, El Gordo, for the Mandalore thing. Thanks for showing that off.
And you just reminded me that I know Grim Dawn has, their expansion is going to be out in October for the game. So I definitely want to jump back into that. Maybe we can try grouping up if you get it too at some point for Grim Dawn. That's the one that was made by the guys who did Titan Quest.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I forget.
Definitely, yeah.
Iron Crate, I think, or Iron Lore Entertainment. Then they became Crate Entertainment. But yeah.
Okay.
I really enjoyed Grim Dawn, and yeah, the expansion is going to be like the perfect chance for me to jump back into that one.
Cool.
Oh, and we'll have to do a play of Asura with the expansion. Saturday night's going to be the grab bag stream, so depending upon what happens tomorrow with Cuphead, it will probably be most likely Sunday for that. But yeah, I think it's starting to be exciting. And again, for those of you watching this, either live or recorded, only a few days left to get your donation for patreon.com/GWBycer. Again, we are $10 away from hitting our first $100 goal, which is the Resident Evil 7 live play. And I'll even throw in maybe some Alien Isolation as kind of like a double bonus for that. So again, get your donations in now, and hopefully we can actually end the month with one of the goals met. But with that said, we're going to wrap up the stream now. If you're new, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back here for daily discussions on game design. And be sure to check out Rob on Twitch, Indie Voyage Rob. And like you said, you stream most weekends, and you're streaming daily at night as well now?
I'm trying to do daily. It's probably about 2 or 3 times a week, but every weekend it's been so far. 2 p.m. Pacific.
Okay, gotcha. So, with that said, for those of you watching this live, come back in I would say 20 minutes. We're going to do a first look at Judge, and we'll see where the night takes us. But otherwise, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll be back next Thursday around 9:30 Eastern for our next Game Wisdom Live. Excuse me. So, till our next stream, have a great night, folks, and we'll catch you all then.